is it possible that Cloud or goddamn Chocobo Butthead Strife will be our final boss of Final Fantasy Remake Part 3? Hello, was good? Either the final boss or one of the bosses. Basically, I was going to come out and do an in 10 minutes, can I drop you with 10 juicy, succulent, fat theories for what might happen in Part 3, and really shoot for the fences. And as I'm scripting it, I thought, well, I'm going to ask you guys to let your imaginations loose and give me your balmiest, nuttiest, most ludicrous imaginings for what might happen. And I was shook to see that what was number 6 on my list, multiple of you said the same thing. That you could see us being Tifa, Barrett, Anarchy, Sid, Yuffie, the gang, fighting Cloud as a boss. Now, there's a few possibilities in here. And as soon as I thought, you know what, screw the other 10. I need to lock in. And chat about this. Grab a cup of coffee, a cup of tea, and Earl Grey, something fruity and warm. Because we're going to go in. Let's consider all the possibilities of what a Cloud boss fight could look like. I mean, before we do that, let's just point to the why. And I think it's pretty obvious why we're feeling this, right? Is the path that Cloud is on very, very different to OG. I was going to say he's more psychologically fractured, and in many ways he is, but then there's also many ways where he's not. Because we're seeing this version of Cloud starting to remember things that OG Cloud doesn't remember until much later on, or if at all. Now, a really big example of that is Zack. OG Cloud never remembered Zack. Now Zack and Cloud have been back to back, fighting in space like a pair of bros, and before that, Cloud actually kind of started to remember him. Also seeing, parts of Cloud, even emotionally, becoming more restored. I think a good example is Tifa and Cloud having a smoochy woochy, a little peck. So in many ways, like Cloud sometimes seems like he's getting better, but then there's the worst. Then there's the becoming Sephiroth, literally doing his movesets, slicing people like an absolute savage, and obviously the moments of him completely losing himself and trying to murder Tifa. Which, I just want to zoom in on that. Can we just encapsulate that at least somewhere, some ways towards Sephiroth did nothing wrong? It's not that he did nothing wrong, it's just that I always say, is it really his fault, somebody who was infused genetically in his DNA from birth with a galactic parasitic space squid, one that came before and was able to turn an entirely high spiritual fantasy race into monsters who murdered each other? The Citra murdered one another and got driven bonkers and balmy. And they were pretty spiritually high. So when you look at that, what real chance did Sephiroth have? Could we not easily say that Cloud would do exactly the same thing? It's only by luck and Tifa's martial prowess that she dodged out of the way of his blade. Cloud would have murdered her. Fact. And if Cloud is capable of doing that, he would have been capable of leveling Nibelheim to the ground. So let's just put that out there in the context of how we see good or bad and how we try to protect the characters' personalities. How we try to kill. What was it called? What's it called when you try to protect somebody's virtue and integrity narratively in a story? You know what I'm talking about. Because what's becoming clear to me is that with the insertion of Sephiroth's backstory, Crisis Core started to do this, showing that, there is actually a decent guy there. My hair is fucking messes out. The friend to Genesis and Jill to Zack. The Crisis Core introduced that. But this new wave of Ever Crisis, Young Sephiroth, the Wutai War, literally trying to be the hero and in some cases actually being one. That's to show us the divinity at the center of the one-winged angel. And then on the inverse, we're seeing the dark of Cloud. And I don't feel And my heart of hearts that Square Enix are shying away from that. They're not trying to protect Cloud's image as a hero or good guy. They swing in for the fences. And that's why these are things important to consider when you think about Cloud being a boss. Because the way I see it, there's multiple options, right? One, he just gets taken over by Sephiroth. And we can't really blame him for it, so his character's virtue is protected. This is, depending how you see, for example, him swinging at Tifa, becoming Sephiroth in his moveset, with Cloud just blips out. And he just wogs out on the gang, and they have to fight him. And it's either like a combination of that, like Sephiroth mental hijacking, and or if Genova just completely mimics Cloud. Or we just fight a Genova mimic of Cloud. Because the mimicry, I've got to say, is something that we haven't fully seen yet, and it's coming. At this part of the story, the mimicry happens where they do it on Tifa. They literally take on Tifa. And this was always kind of the idea, Genova. That's how she turned the Cetra bonkers. It showed up disguised as our loved ones, as their loved ones, and drove them nuts. Now, we know that the mimicry happens on Tifa in OG. Is it going to happen again? Will Genova just mimic Cloud's form and set that on the gang? Or was Aerith that we saw a mimic? She wasn't alive. The Genova Aerith theory for that ending. But regardless of that, because I do find that the weaker of the options. It's just a shock and awe thing, I guess. Like, it would be cool. It would be pretty cool to like see Cloud going and us fighting him. I think it would be a better switch up because we have, at the end of the day, already fought Sephiroth twice, making it a thrice. Now, one of those we've already fought a Bizarro Sephiroth. They used one of the end game fights already, which hints to me that they're gonna need to drop some in. Could that drop be a Cloud? Big, juicy, chuck my butt fight. But I do feel like it would just be like shock and awe value for the sake of shock and awe. Of course, it could serve a story and a narrative purpose, in dividing the gang up further. Sure, powerful, could play a role, but, there'd have to be good written story elements around it, I think, for it not to just feel like, meh, you just did that just to do it. The second possibility, this is the one I feel the most sketchy about. If you'd have told me this like after playing Persona, I'd be like, yeah, this is a great idea. And this would be like a shadow Cloud, or even like an alternate stamp Cloud. Basically, the embodiment of his unconscious, the shadow, comes up, and of the gang fights, or hell, even Cloud with the gang could fight a shadow Cloud kind of thing. Now, yeah, after Persona, I would have thought that was cool because Persona really does integrate Jungian concepts and psychology and themes and the resolution and the acceptance of the shadow self in a very unique way. One that I don't think many games get away with trying to replicate. It just doesn't happen. Like, there's a few other places, games, that have done the shadow self very uniquely. A great example in Final Fantasy is Lightning Returns. The fact that Lumina was essentially, no, not essentially, was Lightning's child shadow self. That had taken on its own will, purpose, desire to self-identify and enact on the story. Lumina was great. Lumina was a fantastic concept, and yeah, just the shadow self done really well. But then, and I know some people are going to hate me for this, then there's like 16. Well, I'll be honest, I just thought it was flat. I was just like, actually somewhat disappointed. Obviously, it was cool fighting Shadow Clive with his red eyes. And oh, look, he's got a dark chromia over him, all like his suit and his outfit and his hair and his skin color's slightly grey. Like, yeah, cool. All right, sweet. But I just was like, it's done, it's played, it's just not like punching and reaching that moment. And I do think that there's a reason for that. Like, I think that these story elements and structure and assembly overall that led to Shadow Clive, and it was him with the Ifrit. He was the one that did all that heinous shit. But yeah, I don't think there was enough there, basically. I do think certainly, the way that Clive was reacting to it, like the, jail scene with Sid, where Clive is just wilding out in his grief and the voice acting, and that certainly carried it, to be sure, but just on face value, eh, it's done, it's played. And I would say that, Shadow Self is kind of in between. It's not like no accountability, because Clive did have to have accountability. That was him, that was his actions, but it's not full accountability, because it's still very much, it distinguishes a separate self. And like Clive obviously didn't intentionally or consciously, cognitively turn into Ifrit and fuck his own brother up. So there was a little bit of moral character armor, to integrity armor around him. Maybe they do something like that with Cloud. I just feel like it would be a risky bet, and maybe it's an option. I don't know. Then there's the third option, and this is the one I want. Just be unashamed, Square. Have balls, and I feel like they have balls. They're not looking to protect Cloud's character, and he just cracks. Man is already cracked. Like, I can't fathom how people watched that ending and they came away thinking, yay, Aerith's alive. This is good. We're getting a happy ending. Like, yo, did we not see the same thing? Did you not see how the cinematography of that whole section was carried out? The music, the almost sickly green lighting. Even, when they're sat by the lake and Cloud sees Aerith and the rest of the gang can't see her, even the smile just has this like bugged out, kind of fucked up. Like, you're cracked, man. It's sinister. And the music that goes along with it, some people say if you reverse the track, it actually sounds like the Genova theme, which obviously gave rise to the Genova Aerith theory, but I don't even know if I'm convinced that that is Genova. I think it is Aerith. I just don't think we're supposed to think it's a good thing it's her. I don't think we're supposed to come away seeing the rest of the gang grieving for Aerith, and Cloud is just there, isolated in this apathetic separation, to where he's incensed with her being there and smiling, but then just totally disassociated, essentially, with their grief. He's become shelled and walled off in this fucked up place that he is, and Cloud's already had, and historically had, an issue with being able to process grief and trauma and death. That's kind of like his main thing. Cloud's already got a perverted sense of accepting loss. I'm just going to go in and say why I think we're going to get a Cloud fight and what it's going to look like. I believe that Sephiroth gave Cloud the materia, the real black materia, and have Cloud essentially be the one carry out the task. The task of saving the world, bringing down Meteor, summoning it, taking the planet and the souls and the fate of humanity to a bright, new, shining star. Cloud is the key for all of it, and in that sense, he has to entrust everything unto Cloud. But Sephiroth doesn't do anything blindly. He's not done anything in this story blindly. For all intents and purposes, he is also being thrust into the unknown. Fate has also broken down on his end. The no promises that await a journey's end also apply to Sephiroth. Everything is moving into the unknown. And what we've seen time again is Sephiroth will probe, he will take actions before, the smaller ones, before the big event. Perfect example of that was stabbing Barra. It was to see how the Whispers would react. All those little moments where we think that Sephiroth's just popping up to have an angsty, malicious flirt with Cloud. They always followed a scene where he was testing an element of his psyche, testing of like Cloud's senses to see what level of spiritual growth he's at right now. And that is why I think, and a lot of people thought this was just a power play move. What did we see with the Black Materia? That was very, very different to OG. Because yeah, in OG, Cloud gets the materia, Sephiroth just forces him to pass them to him, and as soon as Sephiroth gets that Black Materia, he scarpers. That didn't happen this time. This time, Sephiroth got the materia, threw it to Cloud, threw it in front of him, just to say, give it to me. And a lot of people are like, well, was that just a power move? Was that just like some BDSM like gimpy, just, and I think to a degree it was just to show how much control he could exert over Cloud. There is that level, but then I also think there's a purpose to that, is in that small moment he was testing, "Oh, yeah, if I give him, like, materia, will he just bring it back to me?" And when Cloud did exactly just that, Sephiroth knew, "Sweet, I can give him the materia, and he will use it how I want him to. Ah, yes, I do have this level of control over Cloud." And with that, then what happened? Because we discovered that that material was a fake. It wasn't the real one. If anything, it was just a key to the main one. That, what did the game say? It existed and resided between the worlds. The real black material was between the worlds. This was just a fake one, which this gives all weight and credence to what I've been saying about how these stamped timelines are set up. Now, I've been saying they're not timelines, as in like multiverse, MCU style, like separate universes unto themselves. No, they're interconnected gradients of essentially an ocean of soul. So the five stamped timelines are the same as the five Kabbalistic worlds, where it's just different spiritual gradients. And each one of these essentially acts like a little sandbox unto itself. And in that sense, everyone is a remnant. Everyone is an echo or shadow of their totality. What do I mean by that? Like, we know Sephiroth had remnants and had their children, Kadajla Sisu. I've shown in the Ultimania how Aerith knew that she'd be able to make some herself, and I pointed to where I think she is using remnants. But really, everyone is a remnant, because the world of spirit has been split. It's been violated, and this timeline, this fractured sandboxy configuration, essentially means that everyone's soul is also split across them. Because we know that there are multiple Kyries. In fact, we saw in Rebirth, Zack literally interacting with Kyrie over here, and then we, with Cloud and Gang, interacted with Kyrie over here. These are like refractions in a hall of mirrors. And therefore, that is also what the black materia is in this sandbox. It's just an echo of refraction. I'm saying refraction. Reflection? Affaction. Fact. You know where refract. You get it. It's not the full main thing. It's just a fake. Because the real one exists between the worlds, because it's between the worlds, the unifying center of which all of this operates. The five stamp timelines, the world of live stream and the world of chaos, the two big orbs that we saw. And that's the point. We saw. How did we see? We saw with Cloud. Who was Cloud with? Sephiroth. They were together between the two worlds. The place that we got told is where the black materia is at. So then when we go to the end credits and we see Cloud with the white materia, the empty white materia, he goes to put it in his pocket and you hear a clink. Like he can't put it in his pocket. There's something occupying it. And he pulls out a bigger, more juicy black materia. How did Cloud get the black materia? Again, in OG, Sephiroth scarpers off. We then have to chase him down from the Northern Crater. We then fight Genova Death. And that's how we have to like fight for the black materia back. Now Cloud's just got it in his pocket after Sephiroth had the fake. Well, how did Cloud get that? Well, he was only between the two worlds with Sephiroth. And I think that clearly implies, to me at least, Sephiroth gave it to Cloud. Unlike OG, where it was Cloud having to give it to Sephiroth, it's flipped. Sephiroth's now giving it to Cloud. Because he knows that Cloud ain't gonna do, because again, that test, I think that was the symbol of it. I think that's what we were supposed to be getting shown. Sephiroth giving materia. That was the symbolism of that. Giving it to Cloud, knowing you're going to bring it back. And is that not exactly how Cloud behaved? Because on top of like Cloud not sharing in everyone's grief and all of the sinister, fucked up mental configuration that really like is a bad omen. It's even worse that when he sees he's got the black material, world-ending destruction that him and his friends just fought and lost, that Cloud's wordless. doesn't tell them about anything, but his wordless immediate reaction is just to say reunion and then put it in his Buster Sword. And it doesn't just go into the slot. No, it's not just the black materia chilling in the little materia slot. It like symbiotes and becomes the bloody structure of the Buster Sword. Cloud's now out here wielding was essentially a necrotic, world-ending dark sword that is infused with the grief and the spite of thousands of miserable souls, the G. That's what we learned black materia is. It's their fear, oh no, their sorrow and their spite. What did they have sorrow and spite over? Oh yeah, because the planet, no, and this is part of that whole moral grey thing, we've shown that the planet is not morally virtuous, it's not the good guy. You know, not everything that the planet does, if it's for self-preservation, means it's good. If it was, then pretty much every villain wouldn't be a villain. Most of them are in it for their self-preservation. Sephiroth's in it for that. But we've seen the planet willing to violate people's free will, literally have an afterlife system that funnels most of them into perpetual suffering and torment. We saw even in Crisis Core, like what Minerva embodied as like this divine righteous being delivering like judgment and fury, that kind of element to it. And we saw through the G tribe like what the planet did to them. The planet was anti-immigration, anti-refugees, and the G tribe are just now having to suffer, but they wanted to end their suffering, and the black material was part of their intention of how they were going to end it, and then the Cetra stole it off of them. Now, that right there is enough to tell you that the black materia, it doesn't just bring down like a physical meteor, although it does, but it doesn't just do that. The meteor is a dark magic that basically busts into like the world of soul. So something that can kill and affect the metaphysical soul level. That's now what the Buster Sword does. What I can see happening, right, is that in this messed up mental state where Cloud has seen things that no human being should have to see. And what happens if on Cloud's side, he genuinely believes, either gets convinced by Sephiroth or convinced by the events unfolding, that the world's about to end here. We're all about to die. Tifa, Barrett, all of you, you're about to die, and I need to get you to safety. And the only way I can do that is to fucking slice your souls and ship you over to where? Oh, to Aerith's side. She's over there. She's waiting for us. And oh, oh, oh. And I just thought of what I'm describing here. What I'm describing right now is the VR. Oh, the VR that we saw had Meteor coming down. And then what did we see? We saw Sephiroth stabbing Tifa Barrett, right? Dead. And Cloud was like, no, no. But just before that, what happened? There was a black-robed motherfucker standing on the building, on the top of Shinra building. And then he like teleported down. Then he turned into Sephiroth. And then Sephiroth and Cloud back to back. What if Black Robe Man was Cloud? What if that whole scene, Sephiroth ain't the one doing that? What if that is a premonition? Because Mia's coming down, genuinely thinks that's about to hit us and kill everyone. I need to evacuate my crew. But Cloud's seeing between worlds. And what he's seeing of the meteor coming down, Tifa and the rest of the gang, they don't see it. They don't know what's going on. All they see is Cloud's shit hitting the fan, and he turns on them, and in Cloud's mind, he's trying to save them, and in their mind, wait, he's literally just trying to kill us. That's the Cloud boss vibe. That would be dope. Oh. And in a way, yeah, it would slightly protect Cloud's character, but it would also not shy away from going into the darkest void of, yeah, almost Sephiroth-like mentality. Because, yeah, I mean, it's just that perpetual thing. It's like the Emmett Silk thing. And the Emmett Silk and the Sephiroth thing are very, very similar. Where it's like, oh yeah, there's this much more transcendent, like, fate and potential for us. where we are like a soul, an eternal thing where, oh yeah, we could just shut down and end this little impermanent life here and go on to something much higher and something much greater. It's like something we can't really get into the headspace of, and for like Emmett Selk and for like Sephiroth, who begin to see the world on that more transcendent. And while Aerith absolutely can see it on that level, because she has seen through the veil, obviously the flip side to all of this is no, even in this small, impermanent, very transient life that we live, is precious and should be honored, and is not something that can just be bukkaked, essentially. But I feel like with all of this new perspective that Cloud is being blabberdabbed with, like his concept of death is going to get real wacky of what's real, what's not real. If he does end up seeing that, oh yeah, Sephiroth, and he won't see it through Sephiroth. He'll never see it through Sephiroth. Like Cloud hates him so much, he would intentionally not see something purely out of spite of seeing it because Sephiroth's trying to show him it, if that makes sense. And in that way, Sephiroth actually has power over him because of that. Cloud would choose to willingly not see something, even if it was true, because it was Sephiroth that was showing him it. And that's why we always see when Cloud like defiantly rebels against Sephiroth, how often we see Sephiroth smile. He grins. Because it's actually a part of the play, it's part of the performance. Hell, what could the outcome of this Cloud and the gang fight be? I mean, obviously, you can stalemate out, like they incapacitate Cloud, like sure. No, or in the inverse, Cloud incapacitates the rest of the gang and then has to go on that final little foray alone. After literally having the ability to murder them, it just like holds off on that decision to follow through on some like final psychological finale. How do I save the world? What is to be saved? Is the place with Aerith over in the temple, is that even real? Like I could see that happening, or they just go really fucking bold. Just have Cloud kill them. Go on, don't even take this care. Or just murder them. Murder the gang. Turn the whole of the ending into Evangelion's, the anime's ending, or like Full Metal Alchemist, like liquefy every single fucking human on the planet and turn turn it all into one big metaphysical world reforming ending. Because I mean that is also essentially what happened, was it not? Like even in Lightning Returns, like the souls, they were essentially all like bagged up, broken down, put into into their transient soul state, and then moved on into a new destiny. And I think it would be gnarly just to see Cloud run Tifa through with the black materia infused Buster Sword. I mean, obviously Square Enix aren't going to do that, but it could be the weapon though. That could then permanently destroy Sephiroth and or Genova from the live stream for good. Oh, oh. So I was refilling my vape. Yo, that's good. That's good. It would be the classic. The power that Sephiroth always gives Cloud always then ends up coming back to bite him. Having the Black Materia and Black Sword could actually be a way to perma-yeet Sephi Nova from the live stream. And like that has to be what the trilogy does, because they've always existed. They've never been permanently deleted. Advent Children and the entire film showed us she was still there, and we need a resolution on that front. And this is how we could get that done. Oh damn! And that could all happen as a jumping off point from Cloud being a boss fight, taking the crew down. You know what? Take them down, bitch slap them, and then have Aerith jump in before the final act, and then take the final descent into the resolution. I wasn't like that sold on the idea, but now as I riff it, as I go through the steps and envision it in my mind, that would actually make for a punchy, raunchy ass trilogy finale. And would it just be Cloud in like his form? Could Cloud end up becoming something bigger. You know how Square and FF Games like to bug the hell out with the big boss forms. Obviously, Sephiroth became Safer Sephiroth and Bizarro Sephiroth. We've already fought Bizarro Sephiroth. It's like, shit, what about Bizarro Cloud? Bizarro Cloud. Bizarro Cloud. Imagine it. I'm done, guys. This video's been way longer than I thought it would be, but I don't know. Do you like the idea? You can see it. Could you see it happening? Any other ways that it could play out? What would it smell like? What would it sniff like? And yeah, out of those options between a Cloud clone or a Genova Mimic, one, a Shadow Cloud, and then thirdly, a Cloud who believes that the things that he knows and what the real reality of things is that by essentially fighting his friends, that he is in fact trying to save them. And they can't understand it, they can't comprehend it, but only he has the power to do it, and he has the power to know. And Aerith's waiting, and I need to send them to her. And arguably, that has actually always kind of been true as well. Like, that's the thing. I feel like this scenario could come around not just from Cloud's pure mental delusion, but actually with quite a lot of substantiated lore, and Ultimania ingrained truths as well. One of those truths being is that through Aerith, souls are able to be safe havened away. There are pockets of essentially like hidey holes in the live stream. The church is one of those that souls could essentially go to and wait out the bigger, broader apocalypse to escape the corruption from being a Black Whisper. That's what the White Whispers were. Well, that's what the souls in Aerith's dream date were. The vendors living out those little things, thanking her for this time. With her, she had been essentially safeguarding souls. Omni Aerith, Goddess Aerith, the higher one. And so if there's a meteor coming down and shit's hitting the fan, I'll send their souls to Aerith, but I can't send their souls to Aerith unless I... Oh! Right. Yeah, you get the point. I know. I'm going around in circles, looping and reiterating, but yeah, well, bye guys.